Hi Darren, how you doing?
Great, and yourself there, Mike.
Yeah, very good, thank you. It's beautiful actually. It's hard to believe what's actually happening is happening. It's such a beautiful day.
Even if it's nice weather, it's not so beautiful out there. And of course, this situation changes your life in many ways, but you sound like you have a positive disposition.
Well, I think we've got to try and keep our spirits up at these times. All of us have got responsibilities to each other to to help everyone get through. That's how I'm looking at it. You know, we've been on lockdown here in the UK, apart from essential visits out. But we're luckily we're able to still go out as a family and take a walk, get our exercise in. And unfortunately, my wife Jules and I are both cancer survivors, so we've had to do quite a bit of self-isolating over the years when we've been in treatment cycles and chemotherapies, and so we're sort of used to it. And in a weird way, being in a rock and roll band, going on tour on a tour bus, teaches you how to get on when you're all locked in a small space. You know, the dressing room to the tour bus is something that we're slightly accustomed to. So hopefully we can still bring a smile to people's faces through our music when they can listen at home and on our streams that we're doing as the big night in on Saturday nights. And try and keep as much business as usual as we possibly can.
Well, speaking of streaming, I know that your touring is currently postponed, but is your album still coming out in June?
That's the plan. Yes, absolutely. I mean, we've managed to, we've taken the step of rescheduling our New York show from April the 18th to June the 20th, sorry, to coincide with Record Store Day. It might be ambitious at this stage for the Alarm, you know, the Mike Peters Hurricane of Change show at Sony Hall and Record Store Day, but I think we're all hoping that we can get back to some kind of normal by then. And if we can't, well, we'll just respond and we'll move it back to another date in time. And but I think we'd try and focus on a good outcome from this point of where we're at.
And somebody who's been following you for a long time knows that you've never been afraid to take chances. For example, I remember that great experiment when you released an album or at least a single under alias and watched it get added to all the radio stations and all that. And I'm curious, when in your career you kind of realized that it wasn't about hits, but just about putting new music and touring behind it?
I think sort of from the beginning, really. We had a band called 17 before we called it The Alarm, and that was really about. Our main focus was just on getting a record deal and trying to get signed and all that kind of stuff. And we actually played infamous gig in London on the night we were with the Stray Cats the night John Lennon got assassinated, and just driving back to Wales that morning after hearing the news and hearing John Lennon's music, and I just felt everything I was doing at that point it felt worthless trying to just get a record deal, create a bit of music that could give you a hit or something like that. And my whole ethic for The Alarm was, let's start a band where we're just about the music. Let's make great music. If we can pull our resources and be a great band, if it only gets us to the garage at the end of the road, then so be it. Let's just let's follow the music, see where it takes us. And if it becomes a hit record, great. And if it doesn't, well, let's not get too down on that. And I think I've always had a philosophy of trying to not get too high in the good times or too low in the darker times, and just trying to keep a balanced outlook on everything and stay true to the music.
And I think that you were also very early in embracing the internet. What was your entryway into the internet? Was it a site or a service like Prodigy or CompuServe or AOL?
AOL originally, I think it was. The first time I got alerted to it was there's a guy who still works on our website now, Steve Fulton, who's from California, and he was the first fan that ever wrote to The Alarm to tell me about the internet and say it's a great opportunity to chat to fans around the world or share some of your music or history, really. I think there was a few websites dedicated to the big bands at the time, like the Stones and the Beatles, but not really current bands. And Steve said, I think this is a potential future forum to communicate to your audience. And I had a computer background from the 70s when punk was happening. I was a computer operator at the time for a supermarket chain in Britain, and I certainly saw the possibility straight away, and we registered the name thealarm.com, and off we went. And it was all originally it was just putting up, trying to create a list of past gigs or song titles or some lyrics, and then we soon realised it became an actual forum to actually converse with an audience that we'd only really been able to do through the media. So, and then once you had your own voice to the audience, I think that allowed us to springboard into a lot of different kinds of projects.
And speaking of those very many projects, people that have been following you a long time, they've seen you do acoustic tours, electro reworkings of things, supergroups, because there was that project that you did with Billy Duffy and all that. Do you know very far in advance what you're going to be working on? Or are you the kind of person that you finish a tour and album cycle and then you say, this is the next thing?
Well, I have to say, I pride myself on being pretty organised and thinking far ahead. I sort of live my life in the future in my imagination. And I'm always trying to get to the ideas that I think are worth pursuing the most. And I think, again, with the internet, that allows you to sort of project the scale of the project you want to embark on. You know, in the 80s, when I was in the Alarm with the original lineup, if anyone stepped out of the tour bus to want to do a solo song or play a gig outside the Alarm, everything would go into panic stations, and even if you put a best of or a greatest hits out of the 80s, it was they're going to split up, they dried up, or what have you. And if anyone played a gig on their own, well, that was it. They were leaving the band, going solo. And I just think when the internet came along, it allowed us to sort of say, well, hey, this is just a side project. It's not the next album. It's not the big leap forward. It's a different kind of project, and we're just going to put these kind of parameters around it. And I think that's made the life of being an artist and being a follower of an artist a lot more interesting. And so I really welcome all those kind of changes. And I think having a broad palette as a songwriter or as a singer, being able to work in lots of different regimes and different forums, I think that benefits the Alarm. You know, by going off to work with Billy Duffy, for instance, from the Cult, I could learn a lot of things that I could bring back to the Alarm. Same when I was working with Dead Men Walking, with Slim Jim from the Stray Cats and Captain Sensible from the Damned, or being joined on stage by Mick Jones and the Clash. You'd learn things from all these experiences that you'd take back into your core life. And my core life has always been the Alarm. But there's lots of times when I can, like you say, go off, play an acoustic show or join other musicians, and it's not seen as the end of the world, but just a jumping off point to learn something new and make everything interesting.
Now, being that your latest album that's about to come out is a double album, had you actually written even more songs than appear on it?
Well, it's obviously a double album based on the music that we wrote for two principal Alarm albums in 1987 and 1990, which were also sandwiched in between with a live album called Electric Folklore. And I always felt those two records, I wasn't quite at my best, or I felt like we didn't quite get everything we could have done out of those records. It came at a trickier time for the band's history when things started changing around us. There was a lot of distractions. And as a lyric writer, I felt I wasn't quite real. I didn't think I'd captured all that I thought I could get from the music. And then when it came to be their 30th anniversary, I thought, well, I'm going to take these songs out on the road and look at them again and see what I was missing. And I went back to the very first lyric that was written for that whole period, which is a song called The New South Wales. And I thought, okay, well, ironically, it was the last song to come out. It was the last song on Change. It was written it was the first song to be written after the Strength album in 85, 86. But didn't see it released till 1989 and 1990 as a single. And I just looked at the lyrics and thought, well, let's start from there. Well, now, where's this character going? He's walking past a church full of mourning souls after the cataclysmic end of an era. Where's he going? And I thought, well, he's heading to Newtown Jericho, which is on the Eye the Hurricane album. Then he's heading into the Eye the Hurricane, and he's going to meet his love of his life, and that's going to change him and bring him back upstream through Rain in the Summertime and into the Change album, and so all of a sudden the whole project opened to me as much more autobiographical than I'd realised. And I could see a narrative running through all the music, and as someone who's a big fan of Dylan Thomas, I thought there's potentially a spoken word element to this that could link all the lyrics into this narrative that I'd spotted was in the songs. And it's very autobiographical journey of leaving home. To come home, you have to go away, and that's the theme of the music, is leaving to ultimately discover yourself. It's a journey of self-discovery.
And you are probably the first or second person that I've ever interviewed who's a member of the British Empire. Has getting that appointment changed your life in any way besides people now calling you sir?
Well, no, they don't have to call me sir. I'm not. It's not a knighthood. But it's a great honour. But it's not for me individually. Technically, I don't see it that way anyway. It's an award that was for the work I've done in the field of cancer and charity and charitable work, and I've done that with a massive group of people, masses of supporters, not just here in the UK, but all Love, Hope, Strength Foundation supporters across the USA. It's an award for all of us, for our whole community that have gone out there at gigs, trying to save lives, get people onto the bone marrow registry, find matches for individuals who need a second chance at life, for all the people who've climbed mountains with us to help benefit families who are exposed to cancer and the struggles that come with that. And so I feel like it's we're all part of the British Empire, all Love, Hope, Strength people. It was a recognition for everybody, so I was grateful to receive it on behalf of all the supporters of Love, Hope, Strength and the followers of the Alarm.
Well, like many people, I'm looking forward to seeing you live the next time that you appear in New York City or Long Island, whenever that is. So in closing, Mike, any last words for the kids?
Well, I'm looking forward to hopefully coming back to America in the summer. You know, we've taken the opportunity of rebooking our Sony Hall New York show for June the 20th to coincide with Record Store Days we'd originally tended. So hopefully, you know, we'll get this virus situation under control, and we'll start to be able to, venture out again and hopefully get back to our normality of going to gigs and being out in the outdoors and celebrating life. And ultimately, the music that I've recorded for the Hurricane of Change is a real reflection of everything that's happening. We are going through a seismic period of change. So I'm sure the music will resonate even more with the audiences when we finally get out there and we do the things, restart to do the things we love about life.
Paltrocast.